Well, it's a pleasure for me to be here sitting. I think this is my first time actually in the office of Richard Hugh, who is the CEO and president of Caribbean Utilities Company. Thank you so much for having us.
Welcome, Sandra.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. And, we're here to speak to you about a little bit of news that happened earlier in August regarding Caribbean Utilities Company and URCO, more commonly known as OFREG, but their proper name is URCO. And seems like you guys have come to a bit of a settlement agreement. So let's make sure that our listeners have the benefit of understanding really what this was all about. So there's a bit of contention between yourselves and URCO, which is the regulatory agency for utilities in the Cayman Islands. So obviously you have, as an organization, a relationship with them where they're regulating you, they're regulating the industry, but this particular situation caused a bit of contention. And so explain to us what the contention was, and then we'll talk about the resolution that has been recently agreed upon.
Okay, so CUC, yes, has two licenses, one for generation and one for transmission and distribution. The generation license is competitive, and the transmission and distribution is a natural monopoly, so it's a monopoly license. We're the sole provider. And URCO issues these licenses, and so they are the regulator, and they ensure that we follow the licenses, and that customers get good service. So the contention, if you like, or differing opinion came about last year under our transmission distribution license. We have to plan for capacity needs. So we know that customer demand is growing. You can see new hotels, new buildings, new homes. And so we look out for a 3-year period, look forward 3 years, and plan for the resources needed to bring online generation to meet the demands. That process is called certificate of need. So we would then submit to the regulator, to URCO, a certificate of need calling for that capacity to meet the demand. We did some studies, as you know, solar and batteries are now becoming more viable. And in fact, for our needs, our analysis showed that the solar plus storage would be more effective, lower cost, cleaner energy than diesel engines. So after our study, we submitted this CON to URCO, calling for it. It had various ways that we could meet the demand. So it had various scenarios, but the scenario that we proposed and recommended was one for 100 megawatts of solar plus storage and 36 megawatts of thermal or diesel. So it could be an engine running on diesel or natural gas or kerosene or whatever. So that was what we recommended. URCO took a view that they could not accept and approve solar plus storage as a firm, reliable source. And they made their determination in that regard, and therefore went to an option of 90 megawatts of thermal or diesel. And so we objected to that, and we had some very good discussions with URCO, and we came to the agreement. One of the major agreement points that we agreed on was that solar plus storage indeed can provide firm and reliable electricity. So that was a part of the agreement. Other parts of the agreement was that we would work together to modernize our license, to take into consideration the new technologies and new processes that have evolved since 2008 when we received those licenses. as a result of the new understanding and agreement between CUC and URCO, URCO agreed to rescind their determination, and CUC agreed to withdraw its certificate of need that was presented last year. And we will now resubmit a new certificate of need by September. 5th was the agreement. It looks like we may be a little delayed with that because of the things that have to be done before
you can do the certificate of need.
We can submit the certificate of need.
Yeah.
But certainly by I would say before the end of September, we will have a new certificate of need submitted.
Yeah. Let's just pause for a quick second because this is one of the things that I think a lot of utility users don't appreciate. So in order for you to even expand your services basically and provide electricity for a growing population, you need to get permission from URCO on how you're going to do that.
Correct.
So that's significant. Yeah. Last summer, we spoke briefly with one of your VPs, Sasha Tibbetts, about the possibility that there might have been some rolling blackouts. It never happened. And one of the criticisms people said, well, doesn't CUC know and see the growth that's happening in the community and plan ahead? So I just want to clarify, you are planning ahead. You try to do that at least 3 years in advance, but that's always subject to regulatory approval, which it sounds like it can be slow, laborious, and potentially even contentious at times.
Yes, at times we have differing opinions. Yeah. And, hopefully you can work them out before the regulator. What we try to do is to give as much information as we can. We believe that we have more and better information on what is required for the system because we've been running this system since 1966. And so we try to inform, advise, and convince that our courses of action are what is required for the system, and then URCO will scrutinize that, and then hopefully we get the approvals that we require.
Right.
But yes, regulatory approvals is a key part of our industry. People think that we can do whatever we want, but we're heavily regulated. Yeah.
Even in terms of what the bill looks like, everything is dictated in terms of what CUC does. So this agreement, CUC had actually launched a judicial review. Is this the same agreement now that we're talking about that has settled all of that as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So unfortunately, the way the URCO law is set up, once URCO has made an administrative decision, they can't go back on that. They don't have the power to change their mind, so to speak.
Right.
Once they've issued that determination, it's called. So the only way to get the decision rescinded is to go through the
legal process, right?
Which is unfortunate. In the previous law, in the ERA law, which the URCO law superseded, that was the old Electricity Regulatory Authority before they put all of the multidisciplinary regulator together. That law had a reconsideration provision within it. So if we got a decision that we didn't agree with, we being CUC, and if we thought we had relevant information that may convince the regulator otherwise, we could submit that, and under that law, they could reconsider their decision. So maybe it's something that we should fix, because it's a very expensive,
of course,
process.
Yeah.
Okay, some may say CUC can afford it, but what if it's another licensee, a smaller licensee? It can get very, very expensive.
Yes, and a savings with everything is a savings ultimately to consumers as well.
Yes.
So you don't necessarily want to litigate if you don't have to. So that's very interesting. Perhaps our legislators are listening and can consider an alternative means of, dispute resolution, basically.
So I say that also to say that it is not in CUC's interest to be going to the courts all the
Exactly.
time, but if there's a decision that we think is going to is outside of the license or is going to harm consumers or is going to be bad for the industry in general, then we feel we have to
Yes.
challenge it. And in this case, I still firmly believe that the time has come and passed really that we need to adopt more renewables, cleaner energy on the grid,
Yes.
and it's the least cost. And to take on diesel engines now, I don't think makes sense.
Makes sense,
And our studies showed that, our analysis showed that. Right?
Yeah. And that's old technology. I mean, you've got to adapt and adopt, the renewable energy that everybody's talking about. You've got to move forward with it. So let's just clarify a point. And I know this had come up again a number of years ago when this was kind of a hot button topic, but this concept of what is firm power versus not firm. Let's define that, because I think a lot of individuals may not even know what that terminology means in the industry.
And we also call it dispatchable. So, let me see if I can explain this. Our grid relies on a controlled release of energy, right? So if you look at a lightning bolt, for instance, when lightning strikes, there's a lot of energy there, but we can't harness it. We can't control it. With the diesel engine, you have diesel fuel, right? Which there's a lot of energy in every gallon of diesel. And the diesel engine is able to take that energy that's stored in the diesel fuel and release it in a controlled manner. So you have the engine that runs on the fuel. You press the throttle, if you like, and you get more fuel in, you get more power from the engine, which spins a generator to make the electricity.
Right.
So you can rely on that diesel engine 24 hours a day for us, it's about 85% of the year, because it has to come down for maintenance. Things break, so it comes offline. So that's a diesel engine.
Right.
Now we have solar energy. And solar panels are taking the energy from sunlight, photovoltaic energy, and converting that to electricity. However, it's on its own is intermittent, because you never have not in Cayman, you rarely have a perfectly clear day with no clouds going over. And also, you have nighttime, so sunsets and there's no energy. However, you now pair it with batteries.
Right.
And you can build a charge up, take that electricity that's intermittent coming from the solar panels, and you put that into batteries and you build up storage of energy. So now you have a device which has stored energy, just like your fuel energy is stored in your diesel fuel. And you can release that energy with the right equipment. You can release that energy onto the grid when it is needed. So it becomes dispatchable to our operators, just like the diesel engine is.
Right.
Now, the batteries are typically 4-hour range. Our peak demand starts from about 1 hour peak during the days from 11, 12, 1 o'clock up through 7, 8 o'clock at night. And it's the maximum peak is in the evening hours. So the plan is to use solar to charge batteries. And when the sun sets, we have 4 hours to discharge those batteries and meet the peak demand. Following morning, as the sun comes up, you start charging the batteries again, and you start to release. So the batteries are actually providing, and the combination, they're actually providing electricity during the day while the sun is up and through the four hours into the night. So we don't really need more capacity than we have now for the nighttime hours because everyone is to bed. The cookers are off, the air conditioners settle down, the houses cool down. So we see our demand drop off significantly by 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
So here at the plant, we start shutting diesel engines down. Okay.
I see.
So the analysis shows that it's more financially, makes more financial sense to have only that 4 hours of capacity for the peak period. So you now turn to, well, what happens if you have rain, for 2 or 3 days?
Yeah.
Well, with our load, the way our load is, it's most of it is air conditioned load. So we will see on rainy days our load drop from a peak of 130 megawatts down to around 100 megawatts. So at this time where we are in our in the growth of the company and the growth of the system, we found that the battery plus the solar was the best way to meet the needs of the grid. Going forward, we'll always need something, because I said if it rains for 3-4 days, we may only have 100 megawatts. We may not need the solar because we have more than 100 megawatts of diesel.
Right.
Right? Diesel capacity.
Yes.
So we will always need something that can survive, a week of rain, etc. And there are other technologies coming into play as well. Other fuels, cleaner fuels, for instance, to run in the diesel engines.
Okay. So for whatever reason, URCO had previously been of the opinion that the solar option, solar plus battery, was not considered firm. And in some ways, in layman's term, you could say firm, you could replace that with reliable, a reliable source of energy. And of course, their biggest concern seems to be reliability. You have to provide it when the people demand it and when they want it.
Yeah.
So this agreement then, the URCO and CUC have come to an agreement that yes, solar plus battery can be considered firm,
Correct.
reliable source
Yes.
for your providers. Yeah.
And then the other part of the agreement also is that the certificate of need that we submit is not necessarily going to specify the source of energy, whether it's solar plus storage or diesel or whatever. We're only going to describe, as I just said, what the needs of the grid are. So we will say in the evening hours, we need this amount of capacity. In the daytime hours, we need this amount of capacity. So we're going to describe the need from a reliability and capacity perspective. And URCO is then going to put a bid out to all technologies to try and see what is the best fit in terms of delivering that reliability and at the right price.
Right. I see.
So there is a change also.
And that's quite a fundamental change, I would say.
Yes, it is. We have in the past, leading up to this, we have always felt that we have to do the studies and figure out what's the best solution and match the need with the technology and recommend to the regulator the technology. In the past, it was always diesel because nothing else really made sense. Going back in 2008 when the licenses were issued, So now that there are different technologies that can meet the need, we do have to change our approach, and that's recognized by both sides.
So what will you do leading up to the new certificate of need? What does that require of you at this stage to put together? You're saying hopefully by the end of September. How much work, just to kind of give us an idea, is involved in even getting that ready?
Well, we look at we have to study the load curves for different times of the year. It changes in the winter months because it's cooler, less humidity, or demand is down. We're in the peak season now, so we'll look at what is the maximum peak that we're projecting 3 years out, and then the load profile for most of the days of the year. We also have to look at, a year has gone by since the last certificate of need was submitted. We have new projects that have started. So we have to refresh the load growth from incremental, from new loads coming on. So we have to refresh that. And then try to describe the need in a manner that will allow URCO to match the best resource for that need. And there's a industry standard for that we have adopted over the past few years. And I'll come back to that because I've forgotten the actual term right now. It's ELCC, which is equivalent load carrying capability.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the process then is you'll submit this certificate of need. Then URCO will put this out to bid. So anyone, and this is where a lot of people still have this misconception that there is no competition in your industry. This is a perfect example of where there will be competition because it's open for your competitors to submit, their own.
Certainly, yeah.
Everything. I'm sure DART will be in there because they own a utility company on island, and there could be others. Is there any limitation in who can get involved in the bidding process?
Yes, URCO conducted a couple of years ago. I'm mixing it up with the ongoing solicitation. But yes, what will happen if they follow the same process that they followed with this particular solicitation, which is out now? There's a 22.5 megawatt solar plus storage solicitation that's out. If they follow that process, they will invite interested parties. They'll do a brief description of the solicitation, and they'll get parties expressing interest so that they can be pre-qualified.
Right.
Once they're pre-qualified, then they would get eventually a detailed package to bid on and submit their bids.
Okay. This is one of those, I'm always perplexed, on social media, monitoring a lot of the comments, how people seem to think this is a very simple industry and simple business to be in. And so I'm glad you mentioned the pre-qualification to even be considered. Seriously, you've got to go through a pre-qualification process because this is a complex industry. It's a complex business. And so, everyone's an expert these days. I'm a physician that can fix all sorts of things, and everyone wants to think that they can fix their utility problems and fully understand it. But the reality is you have got to have certain qualifications, a certain degree of experience. You need to understand not just at a superficial level, but the details involved in providing energy, reliable and safe energy to consumers. So do you have any idea how many people you might expect to participate in such a bid?
Well, the current bid that's out now, I think there's, I want to say about 6 or 7 potential bidders. Yeah. But it's I think CUC has done a good job, very, very good job in keeping up with the growth and keeping the lights on. And I think it is a bit to our detriment that we make it look simple, but there is a whole lot that goes on behind the scenes to ensure that balance of energy is there, that when you turn on your air conditioner or your lights or your stove, that there is enough power there and the grid doesn't collapse.
Right.
And we have very little control over when you want to turn your dryer on, for instance, or whatever. We see patterns in aggregate that in the evening we have, higher demand as everyone generally goes home at a certain time after 5 and start to cook and do whatever else. But planning for that and ensuring that 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, that you can meet the demand is it's not a simple task. And there are a lot of people dedicated. I can tell you in this industry, you never rest.
Yeah.
You know, it's a constant.
I can imagine.
It is a constant. Right now we're under 2 hours a year of outage.
Wow.
On average for our customers, that is North American standard, and we're doing it in a small island system where you don't have interconnections with other systems. That if you lose some generation, you can borrow power from the state or the system next door. It's
pretty
us and us alone.
self-contained. Yeah, wow. So when it comes to the island's energy generation plans going forward, tell us a little bit about what that's shaping up and what that looks like. I know you guys were talking about some hybrid engines and doing alternative fuel options there. Is that still in the mix, you think, or?
Yes, we had a project to sort of recondition our 5 big MEN engines. They're our largest engines, and we have upgraded them to the latest technology, which will actually allow them to be dual fuel,
Right.
Diesel and natural gas. We only have diesel on the island now. Bringing natural gas will be a significant undertaking. The upgrade of these engines, the good news is, even though we're still on diesel, they're a lot more fuel efficient now, and so we're burning a lot less diesel compared to the older models. So they've improved the technology, and of course, fuel costs are passed on to consumers. So people will be seeing, our customers will see that drop in the fuel factor line because of that project. We went out for interested parties solicitation for natural gas, to bring natural gas on the island. And we did not receive any viable bids, and we've gone back to the drawing board because what we heard following the passing of the bid deadline, what we heard from the potential vendors was there was too much risk, too many unknowns. The quantity, quantity of LNG or gas, and the unknown being because we're looking to move to more solar. So whoever the successful bidder would be for gas would have to know how quickly that's going to happen, and also there's a lot of permitting, and they thought that there was a lot of risk. They didn't want to spend a lot of money developing plans and not getting the permitting. So it looks like we're going to have to try and mitigate some of those risks for the vendors by working with permitting agencies, etc., and CUC getting more involved than it anticipated that it would get involved under the previous solicitation. So it's still, it's not dead.
Yeah.
And we believe there's still benefits, 30% reduction in emissions, CO2 emissions, more stable pricing. It's a cleaner fuel overall. So,
yes. And from a business perspective, as you were just explaining that, I thought to myself, I can see the business risk of providing that, but then knowing that CUC is 100% dedicated to solar, because eventually the solar is going to take over from the LNG. So this is a model that might be feasible for 5-10 years before it then becomes obsolete. So I guess maybe someone needs to think about those things as well.
Yeah, I think we would have to look at probably 15 years Certainly no less than 10 to make a project like that viable and to recover the investment. But as I mentioned earlier, we will always need something that's going to run through the night until we can find something else. The diesel engine fits that bill,
Right.
but you replace the diesel fuel with the natural gas.
With the natural gas.
And then you wait until, that'll take you out another 15 years. It may be only 30-40% of our energy needs and the rest being done by solar or wind or, some other clean energy source until we can find something that's, reliable. Not to be controversial, but it may be, a lot of people are looking at micronuclear now. It could be, we don't know what technology is going to come out. So this buys time. It's some people say it's call it a transition fuel. So it buys time until we can fully replace the thermal engines.
Yes. The world, Mr. Hugh, is just developing so quickly. Where we were 5 years ago, even a year ago in terms of technology, we're in it from CMR perspective a little bit. AI and this sort of stuff that we're watching, videos and all this sort of production, if you will. It has changed significantly, and the change is happening quicker. And so as I think about the utility industry, and I know you've been in it for a very, very long time, do you feel that the changes that are impacting your specific industry are happening quicker as well?
Yes, the pace of change in technology like solar, for instance, and the rapid decrease in cost, solar, and the storage technology. The key really is getting the cost of storage down and making long duration storage more feasible so that you can go even further through the night with clean energy being stored and then released. That technology continues to improve. I don't think our industry is moving as quickly as the information technology.
Yes.
I mean, information technology is and we see it in this industry. The basics of electricity haven't changed, but all of the information that we can get around the system, our SCADA system, which is how we tell. If you look at our metering, for instance, we can go to your meter from the control room here and know whether you're on or off, or switch you on or off. And it's all real-time information. So I came through the system as an electrical engineer in an area called protection. And so my job was chasing faults. So if a circuit went out, I'd try and figure out where the fault was and get it repaired and get the lights back on. And back then we didn't have devices that could tell you exactly where it was. Today there are smart devices on the circuit breakers that predict where the outage is.
Wow.
And also, we have our mapping system that will, when there's an outage, it will light up right away and show all of the customers that are off. So it can predict which device has failed, and we can dispatch the crews directly to that location. So a lot of improvements in the useful information that's available to us for diagnostics and also planning for load growth. So we can look at the system, and we know last year we only had 100 amps in this section of this system. This year it's 130. What's going on in that area, so we can plan for upgrades, etc. So,
right. How does forecasting work? You talk about the sort of 3-year period where you're kind of looking ahead. What other tools are you able to utilize as you were talking about the technology that's available? I have to wonder what tools you rely upon to kind of forecast consumer growth on the island. Using information coming out of WRC. There's the ESO office. which is looking at growth of the island's population. Do you utilize those tools as well to help analyze?
Yes, we do. That's an area that, speaking of AI, that we're contemplating using more analysis in that area. We look at, we know we have lump loads that come on, like the Hyatt that's being built.
Right.
So developers will come in and say, these are our plans. We'll do a load estimate. We know when they plan to come on. So we can aggregate all of those and larger loads. And then it comes down to tracking also residential, larger condominium complexes, etc. And then for the individual customers coming on, we do correlate with the economy, with the growth of the economy. So that gives us some information as well. Generally, electricity consumption tracks with GDP growth. So we'll see, if we're at 3% growth, we're probably going to see 3% or better electricity growth, demand growth. Yeah.
Very interesting. Let's talk a little bit about your transmission and distribution license. So what changes are being made in relation to that? So again, you've got two licenses. One, there is competition, and one, there really isn't. And just to kind of explain to people, you say that that's like an industry standard. It makes sense to me, but maybe it's worth explaining to the average person why when it comes to like your poles, your basically the infrastructure, having competition in that area just doesn't make any sense. It's not like some people think, oh, but isn't the same as telecom? Like they could just throw up a tower and all of a sudden provide electricity. Because of the nature of your business, really, the infrastructure that CUC over the past, since 1966, has put into this country, it's probably impossible for someone else to just come in and duplicate that overnight and say, right, we're going to be your competitor in this space.
Duplication is a key word.
Yeah.
In this small, isolated territory, to have duplication of assets is going to be more expensive.
Right.
Are you going to have one pole line down one side of the road with one system provider and another down the other side of the road with another system provider? They're going to have the other system provider is going to have a control room and staff to make sure their grid is balanced, and we would have that as well. So you end up with a lot of duplication in functions, in personnel, in assets that drives your cost up.
Right.
Telecoms is different. If you're talking about mobile, etc., you can put a few towers up. Some are of the opinion that even in this small jurisdiction, when you have too many providers, then you're duplicating costs, and the industry is not healthy as well. So the other characteristic of the electricity industry is very capital intensive, and so the economies of scale rules. So the larger you get, the lower your per unit cost of production is, of production and distribution. And we see that. I mean, we can't compete with Florida Power and Light, because of their scale. They have nuclear. They have, I think they're phasing out most of their coal, but natural gas, which is in gas pipelines already. So they can generate at 3 cents a kilowatt hour. Our fuel alone is 15 CI cents, right? So that scale brings more opportunity in the type of generation that you can use compared to what CUC can. And when we compare our costs in the region, we are very, very competitive. I know I saw in a recent blog someone saying that we put out our information to make ourselves look good. No, this is an independent survey done by Regional Electricity Association. We do a lot of benchmarking. Not all of the information is made public, but we know that we're in a very good place when it comes to cost competitiveness and when it comes to reliability and quality of service. We see the efficiency numbers, number of employees. We see things like the amount of capacity you need to serve your load. So right now we're at about 35% reserve margin, and many of the other countries have much higher numbers. But we are managing to our maintenance programs and the way we are operating, we're able to keep that 2 hours of outage a year with less capacity. But it's becoming, I'm not saying that, say we don't need more capacity.
Right.
And coming back to what you had mentioned about the sort of public notice announcement we made a couple of years ago, we continue to be in a fairly tight band. And so we're not saying there will be an outage. All we can say is that the likelihood, the probability of an outage happening due to shortage of generation is heightened when you have your high summer peak load and you have less generation to meet it.
Yes.
So,
Speaking of summer, we're in the thick of it now.
Yeah.
You know, the 1-2 things that for sure every single summer without fail that we're going to see people complain about is the potential of storms, because we're in hurricane belt, but also when they first see that first wave of CUC bill that comes in, and they're like, oh man, you see all the comments kind of universally blow up on social media.
Yeah.
My bill just doubled and I've done nothing different. People always say they've done nothing different. And so we look at trends both in the Caribbean, but even specific to the Cayman Islands, to Grand Cayman. Worldwide, summers are getting hotter. Global warming is real, regardless of what people want to say. Every single year, we're hitting new, sort of worldwide. We're exceeding and hitting new milestones in terms of the heat index.
Yeah.
Just a few weeks ago, I was in Orlando. The feel-like temperature, the weather said, the feel-like is 110 degrees today. I was like, oh my God, it's just unbelievable. And so there's a lot of factors that are impacting someone's usage, especially during the summer months. What do you say to consumers who have these concerns? And of course, the logical person to think about who I'm going to blame for this is CUC. It's your fault, right? You're forcing me to use your electricity. You're forcing me to be a little bit too comfortable in the evenings or air conditioning and whatever. How do you respond to consumers? I think it's a lot of education probably is in the mix, but how do you respond? I'm sure people see you at the grocery store and they're like, Mr. Hugh, you send me that high bill again. Why?
Yeah. So this is something that is near and dear to me, energy efficiency. And the company has been, since 1993, I think, been pushing with energy efficiency tips. And in the last 2 years, we have been putting out more and more information on how you can use less electricity.
Right.
And the main culprit, what differentiates the Cayman Islands from most of the other Caribbean jurisdictions is the air conditioning, right? In my day, certainly growing up, air conditioning was a luxury.
Yes.
Like we didn't have it in our home. Very few people had it in their homes. Today, it's a necessity, right? Like everyone, as you said, is getting hotter and hotter. And but the unfortunate thing is that when you're building your home, if you don't know any different, you are not going to build it to be efficient when it comes to cooling. And I have been openly saying to all parties and trying to work with the government on promoting minimum standards, and they now have guidelines for sort of minimum requirements for for insulation and air conditioning. That was published a few months ago. The Ministry of Sustainability, they are doing a lot of work in this area. And I'd like to talk about the CHAIR program before I forget about that. But as you said, it's getting hotter and hotter. Heat goes through your walls or your roof, goes through the building envelope. It's driven by the temperature difference. If the inside of your home is at the same temperature as outside, then there's no need, the heat doesn't move back or forth.
Right.
However, typical summer day, it's 93, 95 degrees outside, and you are trying to keep it at 78 degrees inside. You have a 15-degree difference, and that's driving the heat into your home. Your air conditioner is then trying to pump that heat back out. Right? So the higher the temperature outside, the more heat's coming in, the more your AC is going to work to pump that heat back out.
Yes.
So two things to do, is to stop the heat coming in by insulating the home. I think the minimum in Cayman, if your air conditioner is, you have to insulate the walls as well as the ceiling. And the blowing foam is now proven, a lot of people are retrofitting and putting that in. But I think it should be the standard for new homes. A lot of people are putting it in there, the blowing foam in the ceiling, under the roof, but they're not able to go back at the walls and do that. So if you can stop the heat from coming in, first of all, you'll need a smaller air conditioner. Right. And secondly, it'll be running less. And so your bill will be lower. So the CHAIR program that the Ministry of Sustainability, Kristen Smith and her team worked with a EU grant, and they went through and retrofitted some homes, and we saw tremendous results from that. Excellent data. Consumption being reduced by 50% for some households, and I think it was a big article in the Compass with the lady who also got solar panels and actually was producing on most months, producing more than she was using. And that's because she had cut down her consumption from the air conditioner. So, but until this, I think our country needs to come to grips with their energy use and understand it. So it is a big education piece. And you can always throw things at CUC. We're now Teflon skin. We hear it every summer. But is that changing anything? No, it's not changing anything. And every day we're building homes. It's not the commercial buildings. The architects doing commercial buildings know how to insulate them and put in high efficiency devices. And it's the Caymanian home owners. The high net worth individuals, in the gated communities, for instance, are putting in insulate. They have foam, inches of foam on the outside. They have foam in the ceiling. They'll have a 5,000 square foot house, consuming 1,500 kilowatt hours, right? Whereas I have seen 1,200 square foot homes, 2-bedroom homes here with no insulation and a low efficiency air conditioner consuming over 2,000 kilowatt hours.
Wow.
$800-900 bills. So now you're paying CUC $800 or $900, and I estimate you should be paying only $300, $200-300. $600 is a lot of money back in your pockets. How are you going to get that? Unfortunately, because the home is built already, you're in it paying these high bills. Now you have to find capital to upgrade your home. And that is often difficult.
Yes.
So every day, as I said, we're building these homes. I just went to look with my son at a new development, selling very pricey. And I walked in, and we were being shown the property, and I knock on the walls, and it's solid. And then you ask, well, why would CUC be promoting, lower use of electricity when
Or energy
we're
efficiency,
we're in the business of selling electricity? Well, the retrofit hurts CUC. It does, because we have built capacity. You have engines here, you have transformer sized, you have wires sized to serve this load. So we made that investment. And then if you go retroactively, now you cut your consumption, then we have overcapacity to serve you. So this is, at a high level thinking. However, if you are proactive and you start to build energy efficient homes and buildings, and we see that we don't need as much investment for the capacity, then we can reduce the amount that we have to invest in capacity, which helps the company as well.
Yeah.
But it's in every sense, we need to do it up front and build properly.
Yes.
And I don't think we're going to make a big difference in unless the country as a whole takes this on. I mean,
And really becomes
and really
dedicated
be
to
part.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also the issue of we are in the region the highest consumers of electricity.
Yeah, and it's
So
it's
we-
air conditioning.
We're super consumers, like you said. And there's a lot of other things too that as we start to think about our usage and our behaviors around the things that we're used to. I remember you shared a story it's been over a year ago for sure, where, a young lady was looking at purchasing a brand new house, and she had to think, okay, what am I going to spend my money on? Additional insulation or a nice shiny granite countertop or whatever.
Yeah.
And she's thinking, oh, the resale value, the countertop looks better. But now consumers, when they're looking to purchase, they want to hear about properties that are energy efficient. They'll ask you straight out, oh, but what's the average CUC bill on your home? Do you have solar? Do you have, all these additional things that you would have invested at the front end during the build? So just being smarter and making smarter decisions that will pay off, even in terms of the value of your home as well.
Yeah.
Being really important. So just a few more questions for you. Thank you so much again for taking the time to chat with us. There is a lot of criticism of CUC saying that when you guys do self-assessments or you do comparisons with other Caribbean utility companies, that certainly that can't be on point. That can't be a subjective analysis, that it's tainted with, in a way that it would favor Caribbean Utilities Company. What do you say to your critics who make that commentary about you?
Well, if we're talking about the billing, right, you can go to any country, and if you know someone there, like I've done this before, this exercise with friends or family in Jamaica, where I say, send me your bill, and we compare the rates, right? And you can see it. It's not CUC making up the information. It's there in black and white. We don't look. We have been publicly traded since 1990. We publish so much information. It's all there.
Yes.
We have to be very, very careful that everything that we publish is factual and accurate, right? We don't publish untruths like some of our detractors do. They come up with figures and false information and put it out there. We can't do that as a legitimate, transparent, publicly traded company that believes in maintaining excellent reputation that I believe we have maintained in this country as a good corporate citizen. Why would it benefit us to put out false information to look good. That's absurd,
Yeah.
to say the least. But there is, there's a CARELEC organization. If anyone is interested and they want to hire a reputable consultant to go to the various jurisdictions and look at all of the data and compare. And CARELEC actually does that. They have hired a consultant that runs a benchmark study. And we submit our information. Most of the information we have is publicly available, but we input that into their spreadsheet, and we can see how we're doing.
Yes.
I think if you have a fair and objective opinion, if you were to give CUC fair and objective opinion, we are doing extremely well, not only in the Caribbean, but compared to bigger countries.
Yeah.
And,
Even in terms of your financials, you send out
we send those out
reports on at least I think quarterly basis, so they're available.
And that is, it's people think it's sort of in your face, but we are, as I said, publicly traded. We must publish every quarter our results, and those results, the returns to this company for the investment and the service they provide is very reasonable. Again, you would think that we would have much higher returns than, say, North American companies because the risk we face. One hurricane could wipe us out. There's regulatory, and this is from the North American sort of view, regulatory and government risk, etc. Although we've been fairly stable in that area. Biggest risk, obviously, is the weather, hurricane that could wipe us out. Yet, our returns are not greater by any significant margin than the North American returns. So, I do believe that we get a bad rap from consumers. Well, some consumers, some appreciate that. To attract capital, there's a cost to capital. Like, you'll hear, CUC's profits. Well, profits, the other word I use in our industry is it's the cost of capital. We have the cost of labor, we have the cost of fuel, we have the cost of materials, we also have the cost of capital.
Yes.
So we have to raise capital to invest, and we've been investing, up to $100 million a year to keep up with the growth, to keep our equipment in good condition, replacement of poles and wires and generators. We have to do that investment. Otherwise, you're going to see the outcome in poor reliability and poor efficiency and higher costs.
Yeah. And most people haven't had the benefit. I think we need to, liaise with your comms team to do a tour again of the facility and kind of share that with people. I've done it before, and it's just, I'm blown away by what I see, the technology, the efficiency, the staff who, really understand and know their job, who, make it a safe experience. All the things that we kind of don't really appreciate, they're actually happening behind the scenes. But you talked about that capital investment, and a good portion of what CUC actually makes, they turn right back around and reinvest that in continuing to develop the company and the equipment to make it, more energy efficient, more reliable. Even if there's like a 5% reliability increase, those things matter to consumers. I remember a number of years ago now, Christmas Day, the power went out. We were all cooking Christmas dinner. Everybody's like, no, not having a situation like that. Like you can't really put a price tag on that on Christmas Day. Trust me,
Usually when it goes off, it's at some inconvenient time of It's like, But so they get it back to the industry, and from an investor standpoint, I talk about raising capital, and we're seeing the electric utility industry as a whole globally facing a big crunch. They need more and more capital because there's resiliency. You got, if it's not hurricanes, it's bushfires, and so they're having to spend a lot on that, decarbonizing. Although under the new government in the U.S. is less of that. It seems to be trending away from that, but the going to renewables again, and then growth with the AI data centers and so on. We're seeing the growth. We don't have the data centers here, but in North America, they're seeing after years and years of fairly flat demand, they're projecting a big demand growth. So there's a generation and transmission distribution very expensive. So we're seeing a big capital crunch, and we CUC have to compete with these capital sources, right? Other demands on capital. So we're seeing the same here. Solar, if we're the successful bidder in this upcoming bid, solar is fairly expensive upfront cost, but then you don't have the fuel to burn. But it's nevertheless a capital investment up front, and it's so important that we are competitive in the capital markets, and they're able to provide a return. Obviously, our capital is a combination of equity or shareholders as well as debt, and as you know, you have to pay your debts, right?
Absolutely.
So it's but for the investor, and we do have a lot of local investors. It's not a tech stock that you're going to double your value every year or whatever. It's meant to be a lower risk, stable, some growth, and it pays a dividend. So particularly if let's say you're a retiree, and you look forward to dividends rather than some other stocks. The stock price goes up, but they don't pay you a dividend because they're reinvesting all of their dividends, all of their earnings. So I think we value this year coming up in September. We're going to celebrate our 35th year on the Toronto Stock Exchange.
Oh wow!
So we're right now preparing for that and looking at then and now, and how the country has grown with CUC powering the economy.
Wow! Oh, congrats. So just to kind of wrap up, now you mentioned earlier the Ministry of Sustainability's CHIR program. How do people find out more about that? Do you have any details on, because that sounds like quite a good program.
Yeah, they had a website. I don't have the actual website right now, but perhaps if you...
We'll throw it up on the screen.
You can, get it up on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Not
definitely. They have a lot of information out there, and as I mentioned, they have published the guideline for energy efficiency in homes, which is the first step, I think, to where they want to go. Hopefully, we'll get there with some minimum standards in the building codes.
Yes, wonderful. Well, Mr. Richard Hugh, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, sitting down with us, explaining this most recent agreement and kind of what that means for, the move forward for energy in the Cayman Islands, obviously for Caribbean Utilities Company, and ultimately for your consumers and your customers as well. Yeah. So we appreciate.
A takeaway that I must leave you with is that we are committed to renewables. And all of our plans show that our system can take, 60 to 70% renewables. And that is the direction we should be going in and must move in. And this agreement with URCO hopefully paves the way when we resubmit the certificate of need, that we'll see even more renewables coming onto the grid.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.